Well, let's bring in Tim Seanor from, better known as Uncle Timmy around here. You may recognize him
Yes,
from
yes.
on YouTube from Thomas Fessler's Disclosure Tonight.
Yep,
And
yep.
most recently, Tim was at the Utah UFO conference that was put on, where there was a lot of big name scientists there, including ones from Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch. Tim, how you doing, man?
Dave, John, it's so good to see you
It's
guys.
good to see you. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so you physically went to that conference?
I did. Yeah,
How many
it
people
was
showed
a
up?
3 day, couple hundred VIPs and
That's not bad.
guests and participants. Yeah, it was really great.
Wow.
And not so much that, but just great collaboration amongst the people that were there. You know, so
Oh,
it's a
nice.
fantastic organization. So that's the UFO Disclosure Symposium that took place at Vernal, Utah, 28th, 27th, 28th, and 29th of May, I think it was. So, or
Very
maybe it
cool.
ended on the 30th, but either way, 3 days. And yeah, it was
Where was
fantastic,
it again?
informative. Vernal, Utah. It's one of the
You've been to
highest
Utah before?
places on earth. No, first time in
Interesting state.
Utah.
Yeah.
It made me want to go skiing there. I can tell you, driving by it
Mm.
now with kind of the lingering snow, I was like, oh, I could still get a couple runs in,
Do you
you
notice
know.
how
But
how sometimes the streets are really, really wide? Have you noticed that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
That,
Why is that?
so you can make a U-turn in a horse and carriage.
That's great, man. I think
Totally
if
not
that's the
kidding.
fact, it could be
Totally
yeah,
not
that's
kidding.
great. That's
Totally,
beautiful.
totally not kidding.
All right,
Fantastic, man.
Tim, while
Yeah.
you were there, a lot of people out there are very used to the idea of seeing the Tic Tac UFO video. And this was a video that came out back in 2017. And this was, of course, a big part of the release from the, how can we put it here? From the uh, New York Times article that came out, and it was something that was quite captivating for many people. I mean, there were those who absolutely loved it, there were those who ripped it apart, but rarely what has been seen publicly is the extended version of this video. And I don't know why it hasn't been shown as much as we think it would be, but explain what went on.
Right. Obviously the last 4 seconds or so of this video is the highlight, how the Tic Tac actually exited. And so this obviously is a capture from 2004 Nimitz encounter. And so the USS Nimitz had also radar data on this that obviously we don't have publicly. But we are left with this video that is available in full length, obviously, at the Navy's website. And highlighting really is the last, like we said, the last 4 seconds of this that really kind of slipped through everyone's fingers as far as important. And so we've got a couple of scientists that have taken a close look at that. And that's really what the highlight of this information is going to be all about. Um, and so,
And I'm sorry, Tim. Just for my clarification, when do we know for sure that these extra 4 seconds became publicly available?
at the time in 2017, when it was released on the Navy's website,
So basically,
incomplete.
if you went to the Navy's website to get your Tic Tac video,
Yep.
you would have gotten these extra 4 seconds going back that far. But because everyone else was downloading it off YouTube and from Jeremy Corbell, basically we didn't get those extra 4 seconds. Is that right?
No,
It's
it's
nothing
always
against
been
Jeremy by any.
available.
I'm just saying that that's where everyone was getting the videos from. So it's like was it really just that simple?
What it was is that typically that wasn't the portion that was highlighted publicly. So what I'm saying is that the media focused on the video itself without highlighting the important data that was hidden very openly in the last 4 seconds. But there's a couple of scientists out there that are looking at this data very carefully, and some of that data has been released, and that's what's so new and interesting.
Okay, so you have a copy of that extra 4 seconds. If you want
Yeah.
if you want to bring that up, and then that way we can share it to the screen.
You know what? I actually did you one better by just texting you a GIF that you can play, and this is off of the actual. Yeah.
I
Is that
can't
not a
play that
thing?
off my phone, dude.
All right, I did not know that. Okay, so yeah, I can. Let's see here. Get standby.
So what we want to do is we want to describe this to our radio audience who is seeing this at the, you know, I mean, this is, I have it on my phone, but I'm not going to be able to show it up onto my camera here.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do here.
So
I even found the other day of taking an animated GIF on my desktop and sharing it within a web browser, having it loop in the web browser as an animated GIF, and then sharing that as a screen in StreamYard didn't actually work. It would just allow the video to play one pass, and then it would freeze it there, and it would stick there forever.
Right. Yeah, it's not letting me do it. I see that. Are you able to share a screen with the Navy website, perhaps?
I'm trying right now in order to bring it up here, and
the Navy.
I have no idea on the website where it would be. So,
okay. Yeah, I can.
Well, this just took all the thunder away.
I'm definitely a rookie on share screen, but I did text you the link. Yeah, that's not helping, obviously. Let's see. It won't let me share this screen actively. Let's see if I
Well, if you go down below, it should, to the share button, it should allow you to.
Right. I can't actually get this to.
You know what we'll do? Let's just explain right now what we're going to see, and we will work out the technical issues during the break here rather than fumbling and bumbling around.
Absolutely. And so so what this last 4 seconds is where the camera loses lock on the Tic Tac and it exits the screen. At which point the camera relocks on it, and what you see is 4 frames of what appears to be a signal aimed directly towards the camera, which leads to 2 frames of complete white noise. And then you see the Tic Tac diminish to a pinpoint and then apparently swell up and disappear, if you will, for a moment. And so we're kind of interpreting that as EMP direction or something as a result of it moving very quickly. There's a lot of hypotheses, but Hal Putoff and Dr. Michael Boyd have some notes on this that I find absolutely intriguing. And so not only are we seeing that taking place, they're also reviewing some of the information that's really obvious on the screen, such as perfectly round images that they're considering potential vortices, if you want, if for a lack of a better term. And we can get deeply into that description in their own words, and I have some quotes here for you.
But you know, and I love to hear, the one point I want to make real quick is that there's been talk of signal management from a while back, right? And signal management was a very eloquent way of phrasing it that implied the possible menacing aspect to it, but didn't directly imply intent. Because there are many ways that you could have signal management happen as a side effect of some other system. But what you are describing being shown in this video is not that. what you're describing in the
Right.
video appears to be a active, you know, I'm going to flip you off and then bail, you know, sort of a thing. I mean, I guess you could argue that it perhaps was an artifact of whatever propulsion system they used to then take off right afterwards, and that's why you then saw the two white screens and then they appeared as a pinprick. So I guess there's still some room for it to have been an artifact of another system, but what you describe really lends to the idea that it was more intent driven.
Potentially. Dave, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to reserve my judgment until we can
get
see
something to look at. You want to watch it? Yeah.
I'm very, very curious to see what is going on, because look, I've seen what everybody else has seen, and that is the video where you see the Tic Tac, you know, moving forward and just hanging in the sky, and I don't see anything else that is truly, how can we put it, strange and everything. But you know what? Let's talk about it when we come back on Spaced Out Radio. We have the fedora-wearing Jon Hudson for the Unbiased UFO Report. Joining us is Tim Seanor, and we're going to break down this extra 4 seconds of the Tic Tac video when we return on Spaced Out Radio.
I'm saving.
I have it lined up now.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool. I was about to figure it out on my end.
Well, I mean, it's good to show up, but I have to say that, I mean, it sounds like it's the data that is the important part, and ultimately, you know, how much is 4? I mean, I'm a little worried about, like, you know, like as this gets out further, how excited people are going to get and whether they're going to be let down, because I mean, 4 frames. I mean, how much can you really see in 4 frames? You know,
actually, quite a lot. A lot.
Well,
and that's
good.
the whole point.
Well, no, I mean, it depends on which frames there are. I mean, obviously, there's certain frames that 4 frames. You know, in the Kennedy films, 4 frames. You know, could we make a big deal? But you're not always guaranteed to have the right 4 frames. So it's like, to me, it almost sounds like someone intentionally just cropped all the fight scenes out of the movie.
Right.
And then ran around with the dialogue portion of the movie and tried to sell it. And then oops, look, all the fun stuff we cut out.
Right. And we can definitely get into Dr. Putoff and Dr. Boyd's interpretation of this, because they're very clear on how they feel about this. And, you know, obviously there is data to hash through here, because it can be interpreted in many ways, as you're saying, because we just don't know. Right. But the fact that I find very interesting is that it has been glazed over. And if you are, and we will take a look at some of the stills here that these scientists have really highlighted, there's a lot of information we have just glazed over, been shown in public and not seen. And it's been right in front of our eyes this whole time.
I have to say, I find this very, very disturbing, Tim. Like, on so many levels. This is like, this can keep me up at night. This
right. I know. And you know what? I'm within a work team that also got a little squirmish over this, simply because I think it was just highlighted in a different fashion, you know, and interpreted in a different way. And so it's just, how do you look at it? You know, it can be swayed and interpreted in many ways. I'm starting to learn that, you know, energy might have a certain effect on us, even though it's totally neutral. Right. And I think even in Travis Walton's case, right, he was affected by something that was probably pretty neutral. Fortunately for him, they were benevolent, right, and helped him to get back on his feet eventually. But
well, after. Like, oops,
yeah, but the point is that initially these energies should be interpreted as good or bad necessarily. They just exist, right? And so interpreting a communication like this as being offensive or defensive, I've heard words like jamming, you know, that this was jamming the signal of the camera operator. Now that kind of initializes intent, and I think that's a little bit dangerous because we don't know if there's
the thing is that when you can assume that it was a consistent signal that became a problem due to proximity, that it's much easier to believe it's passive. Whereas when you have a focused signal that came at a specific moment, it's harder to,
Yeah.
You can talk about
it. Man. No, I'm 100%. Yeah, it's kind of in the eye of the beholder. But when you get some guys that are breaking it down frame by frame and actually reviewing all the data on the screen, which is what you actually have to do when you've got the frames to look at them. And so, that's what these guys did rather. And so, at some point we have a completely white screen, of just lines of data.
But that means that HAL's had these frames this whole time.
We all have.
Right. Everyone's had these.
It was declassified in 2017 when it was, broken and made public.
And so are you saying
but the new information that's being released now, since this symposium, is the opinion of these scientists on these frames?
But is this to imply that basically a lot of people already have these 4 frames on their local hard drives, and they just don't even they just never noticed?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've all looked at it on the news. In fact, not the end, but even the frames leading up to this have interesting information that I haven't even talked about yet, really. But are expressed in this symposium that I was a party to, and taking notes in a symposium, taking video in a symposium, taking photographs, it's all part of the process of learning. And so in reviewing some of these things, I'm made aware of things that have slipped through the cracks. I'm also being bombarded at the time by so much information. I have to review my notes. And in reviewing my notes,
we got 10 seconds.
That's where this was discovered.
Hi, Alien Critter. Hi, Scowling Greg O'Brien. Here we go.
Greg gets it.
We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight. Is there more video footage that the majority of us haven't seen on the Tic Tac footage? The fedora-wearing Jon Hudson, this Unbiased UFO Report, with special guest Tim Seanor here tonight. And we're going to bring up this video on our YouTube side, but we're going to describe it for our radio side as it comes up, because this is kind of important. It's kind of cool of what's going on. John, Tim, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, Tim. I mean, I'm sorry. This is kind of messing me up. If this had happened to me in any other field I'd be in right now, I would walk away. I'd be like, you know what? I'm sorry. You guys are obviously not as competent as I thought you all were. I'm going to go find someone else to learn from. See you later. I mean,
well, don't kick yourself, man. None of us really.
We should all hang our heads in such shame over this.
Not at all.
This is so sad.
You're misinterpreting the data, man. The fact that this was hidden in plain sight simply means that a lot of people just didn't get it. It's like if you were handed a cell phone and you're in the prehistoric age, you're going to be like, meh. You're not going to know what to do with it. You're going to throw it at someone. You're going to think it's a stone. And so when we're shown something like this, we can glaze right past something that we're being shown. Right here above us, if you freeze frame, you're going to see a circle. And that circle is important. And the scientists that are observing this see that and recognize that as being important, because this is FLIR video. Why does it express this way? It actually moves, and it moves independently. So there's further data being observed on that portion of the video.
Wow.
And just to give you a quick quote of the final few frames, and this is expressed in the opinion of Dr. Michael Boyd in particular, and a quote is that, and I'm missing a portion of this, unfortunately, but it appears the UAP is hitting the Nimitz aircraft with an EMP, which saturates the IR detector array. And in his opinion, this makes him feel uncomfortable, and he feels an unmet need for reassurance for future nonviolent intervention with UAPs. So
basically, at the end of the video, what we're seeing is the final 4 seconds that were pretty much cut off. So the newsrooms are going through the video. They're like, okay, the entire video of the Tic Tac is 1 minute, 16 seconds. We're shown probably a 10, 15 second clip of the pilots go, what is that? What is that doing? Look at that thing go. You know, all sorts of pilot talk that goes on with this jet and this Tic Tac. And then it gets to the end where when you're watching it, you actually see the screen twice go bright white. Now, what they're saying is this wasn't caused by the camera on the FA-18 fighter. Instead, this was some sort of EMP pulse that was let off by the Tic Tac as maybe a defensive mechanism or some sort of mechanism that says, hey, you're playing with me, I'm going to play with you. Am I correct with that, Tim?
That is potentially what is being thrown around right now. Yeah, that is one of the theories. And so there's still a lot of interesting data being resolved through this, but that is one.
And that is the important big new thing, right? Like you said, Tim, is it that before, even if you did have these frames, you might have seen those two flashes in the screen and just thought they were whatever, right? Just some video issue, noise, right? Not interpreted it in the way that it's now being interpreted. And so that interpretation, now, do we have any information as to like who was involved in that interpretation and how long that took to develop, and like why it took so
long? I can only name the two doctors, the physicists that I know. So Dr. Michael Boyd and Dr. Hal Putoff, those are the people that spoke on this particular piece that I'm aware of. Of course, UAP Task Force has a team. Of course, Navy has their own scientists. And so, yeah, there's a large reference of people that have looked at this frame by frame, but publicly, we're only getting the side from Putoff and Dr. Boyd, giving their opinions publicly, which I'm sure are working off of other information that they work in. I mean,
and the thing is, I have no problem with newspaper and newsrooms doing their nice clean cuts. I get that, but in my experience, in every other field I've been in, whenever you're researching anything, you always get the most original version of that data as you can, and you pour over it with your own eyes, because you can never trust anyone else to interpret it for you. And I always assumed, oh God, I don't know.
Yeah, and so if you scroll to 112, a minute 12 seconds, that's where we can start breaking down what the video is really all about. And so the other stuff is great. There's a lot there. We can talk about that. And there's some information from these two scientists on that. But these final few frames we find interesting in particular, simply because we can break down how this interacts. And so
because you see the lock break and then reestablish,
and it disappears for a moment. And at the same time that's occurring, you see that the circle is no longer there. So we saw that large circle in the top kind of move down. You don't see the Tic Tac and the circle in the same frame when it disappears. So there's the circle. So this is information, and we'll just go ahead and call this what it is right now. In the words of Hal Putoff, dark torus-shaped balloon, quote unquote, rotating clockwise above UAP appears cooler on the IR than other regions. Under Putoff's hypothesis, expanded spacetime, and under Boyd's anti-gravity, quote unquote, balloon. P side of gravity diode, which is something that is a little bit technical to get into right now. So the dark region to the left of the UAP under Putoff hypothesis is expanded spacetime. And the small, dark, oval-shaped balloon, quote unquote, rotating to the clockwise and below is UAP. So there's actually multiple.
And that's where you see it change shape again.
Okay. Off to the upper right in the frames where we can see a lock. Once we've got a lock, actually you kind of have it.
Hey, we should do a watch party for when Mick West reviews this.
Right. Well, so right there is actually pretty good. You're going to see some shapes moving off to the right there once it gets lock again. And we're calling these quote unquote balloon shapes. Brighter region to the right of the UAP is warmer on the IR sensors. And under Putoff hypothesis, denser in the lighter quote unquote balloon. Okay, so that's a little bit hard to imagine, but it's part of why this thing is moving the way it does. And then finally, in the bottom right,
Tim,
yes,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Do FLIR cameras only use infrared, or do they also include an optical? I guess they blend.
Right, it's literally just only forward-looking infrared. FLIR only is what you're seeing here. There's only one capture. One data point.
So that is,
and then they're using radar.
Okay.
So in combination with onboard and then terrestrial. So there's two data points with radar, and then one visual IR. So we just don't know of the other two. We only have this.
Right, and the thing is too, is it that dark region that we're seeing up there, the contrast, the diff of the contrast between that and the rest of it is so slight, where it's such a, you could almost say it's by luck that we even can see it, which then means that if you had a higher quality version of this film, there may very well be other artifacts in that frame that have equally interesting importance that we can't see, but someone else can.
Yeah, a multi-spectrum camera mount would be ideal. I don't think that was really in their capacity at the time, or maybe they do have it and we don't know about it.
Well, you know, one thing I'll say really quick is Dave Beatty was on Jimmy Church then. He was talking about that one of the things that he finds curious is that most of these ships have this pod that sits fairly high up in the structure with an incredible array of high definition cameras, forward looking infrared, zoom lenses and so forth. And I mean these collect data about everything that comes within any proximity of the ship, and they do it in every freaking frequency that they possibly can. Where's that information, right? Like that had to have been running while everything else has been going on.
Right. So Dave, you're circling in on those frames right now. Are you seeing the frames the way I showed you in my demonstration? So if you are you able to go forward frame by frame? Because this is coming from the Navy.
I can only go through the video.
And I'm actually not seeing the frames that, oh, there it is. There it is. So there's like literally 4 frames, and it happens so quickly you can miss it. So all I can do really is describe it.
Second or 30 frames a second?
Let him finish in here.
Yeah. So basically, again, we'll just review what takes place over 4 to 8 frames. Very well done there. That's a good freeze. Perfect. So that is a moment where it is literally firing what was considered potentially, and let's just visualize it as an EMP, because it temporarily blinds the IR. Now, theoretically, it could do that with what? Heat, or cold, or electromagnetic pulse, or, you know, now what does that? Well, it can't be a lot of things, right? You can rule out drones, you can rule out another aircraft, mundane, you know, typically. So, I mean, we're already into a realm of, now let's see, what is it? And
well, except for the one thing I would say, Tim, is that even there's a caveat, because you know, I have I don't run them anymore, but I have servers I used to run in my house where it would watch for certain types of scans, and if you scanned me in a certain way, it would trigger a response, and some of those responses were rather aggressive. And this was not even using artificial intelligence. This was just using a bunch of scripts. So to think that an advanced drone wouldn't have a small subset that says, hey, if you ever see a signal from anyone you don't like it, invert it and send it back. That's a real simple instruction set to put into a drone that would work real well for defense mechanisms.
So you're saying potentially adversary mundane drone equipped with EMP.
All I'm saying is that I would love to say that
here's the problem with that. I don't know how they lose a lock, and I don't know how that pulse seems is more like a distraction while it disappears again. Go ahead, Dave.
Guys, let's remember we are on radio too, so we got to explain this for our radio audience. So when Tim is talking about lock, this is radar lock that the pilot on the FA-18 Super Hornet would have on this, say in a battle zone, would be able to fire his guns or his missiles or rockets towards this aircraft. That's what we're talking about with a lock on this target. Correct, Tim?
You're absolutely right. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that, brother. And you know what? Thinking further on this, it is interesting that this wasn't highlighted at any point or questioned publicly. Like, what is this? I think a lot of assumptions were made initially that this was something like jamming, right? And I think there's a perfect example. That's a great freeze frame where there's just straight bars across the screen, totally white out, a lot of noise.
And this is a perfect example of something we don't have knowledge of, in that the camera manufacturer knows, like, specifically what sort of things can be received in signal that will produce this sort of screen, and so they can narrow it down even further, like exactly what's causing, or at least help confirm or refute any kind of data that's coming from any other part of the system.
Dave, what are your thoughts on some of these dark spots that they're identifying above it as colder regions on the IR, being Putoff's hypothesis on expanded space-time potentially, or wormhole? How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I mean, look, there are so many more smart people talking about this besides me, man. Well, and I am looking at that round hole, and that would be, so for people on radio, you see the tic tac within what we call the crosshairs of the FLIR camera, which is what the pilot is looking at through the head-up display, and there is this giant round circle above the tic tac that they are saying could be a wormhole or something for it to jump in and out. And what I'm saying is, I don't know, like, for my amateur way of looking at this, to me it looks like paradolia from the camera. It doesn't look like anything else that it would be affecting this craft or target. But these are gentlemen who have the scientific background, who can look into this and say, no, this is something that vanishes. This is something that disappears and then reappears when the craft makes a turn, or when the craft speeds up, or whatever. They have that timing and the mechanisms to be able to try and prove that. For me, it looks like paradolia in the sky.
Well, I mean, to your point, they know specifically what a slight color variation like that means to their system. Like the fact that the rest of the sky is one shade of gray and that circle is a slightly darker shade of gray. Like aside from it, you know, I think Tim, you said that they identified that as a colder region or a warmer region.
The circle is a colder region,
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's actually that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is that I don't know if, like, it's very possible that you're talking about such a slight delta, such a small difference, that if you were looking at it in any other frequency, you wouldn't see it.
Right. It's very interesting. And I love the fact that Dave slipped out of the woo and into the world of skeptic potential. I love it. I love it.
And as much as I love the woo, I'm always very skeptic.
Yeah, I love that.
I want to try and find the answers. I mean, I love it when people throw at me, "Oh, you're just all woo and everything." I'm not. I try and look for logic first.
So here's the crazy thing for me personally. When I sat and kind of reviewed what I'd sat in front of one time and then let it sink in and it processed. The last time I was on your show, I talked about my personal experience on the Bainbridge Island Tic Tac event, right? My 9 family members witnessed a Tic Tac in the sky fire a beam, right? That opened a portal in the sky and something either entered or exited potentially. And I have photographs and stuff that I took while this was happening. So when I kind of stumbled on this in my notes, I was like, wait a minute, I saw a Tic Tac fire a beam, and here's a Tic Tac maybe firing a beam, and Hal Putoff is talking about it. It rang some bells for me, you know, because I potentially saw that occurring over Seattle, you know. And so that's another reason why I brought it to everyone's attention, and not just yours, but a few other people. And the funny thing is, nobody remembers looking at these frames. Nobody really. I mean, do any of you recall? Like, it was literally the 4 frames that nobody really knew about, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's been there the whole time." I find that incredibly interesting. Back over to you guys.
Well, and you know, the thing is that, I mean, there are, like, for example, when Eric Davis, Dr. Eric Davis, was on Skinwalker Ranch and they witnessed a portal in IR, he said that he could actually see aspects of the portal that appeared to have geometry that actually had commonality between some of the math that he'd been working on when it comes to how a portal might actually work in real life, right? And, you know, we do have a lot of work that's been done in that, you know, Leonard Susskind did a bunch of work on black holes being connected. And, you know, you even look to Harold Sonny White. He actually worked on building a warp field interferometer that would actually be able to detect you know, any kind of variation in this. I don't know how far he got. I know he left NASA and now he's doing his own thing down in Austin. But the thing is that there should be, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that there could be more information available in that film that could tell you even more about whether this is really some sort of a space-time distortion or whether it's something else. There might even be more data available that we're just not seeing.
You're absolutely right. And, you know, not to forget that at the end of every black hole is actually a quasar, right? And so if we can learn to control that sort of thing,
well, and that's exactly
right.
That's exactly where things get really interesting, because like if you read what Susskind worked on, is the idea that basically every 2 black holes are connected, and essentially the amount of information that gets absorbed into the black hole not only increases the size of the disk, but also increases the length of the tunnel. So you can actually shove planets in to push the tunnel out further.